Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge in the Almighty Dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the 2023 American Express. This is going to be my preview show with a focus on the betting side, but I'm going to give you all the information you need also from the DFS side to start getting your ideas on who you want to bet, get those in early, and then also anyone that you want to start building lineups. You can also start getting an idea of the guys that I'll be picking in the future. First off and foremost, thank you for stopping by. Give me about 30 to 40 minutes and we'll get through all this information. Of course, at the end, I'll give you my betting card and explain kind of why I'm going with who I'm going with. And with that said, let's talk a little golf. Okay, so it was a pretty crazy wrap up to the Aloha season at the Sony Open. Of course, we had the two events, the Tournament of Champions, and then of course, Sony Open, totally two different courses as you saw. And some things happened that were pretty out of left field. And let's talk about Tom Kim first. So, of course, from my pick side, I had 20 picks. I believe I was 14 out of 20 on the guys that made it through. Kind of the highlights would have been Hayden Buckley, who almost had a really good chance to win, but Siwoo Kim out of nowhere chips in on 17 and hunts him down and ends up winning by a stroke. But it would be nice to see Hayden Buckley take that down for his first win. And we'll talk quite a bit about Siwoo Kim in a moment. But two of the picks that I thought for sure were dead on, no way could miss, at least for sure the Tom Kim one, did not happen as everybody. I think it kind of floored everybody. And in short, if you want to know what happened, if you didn't keep kind of an eye on, watching each round, well, the two rounds they got to play, or looking at the stroke gain data after, it's real simple to see that for whatever reason, he did not like those greens. First time ever putting on them. I did mention in my preview show that what kind of shows up here is guys that typically win have, had success on those greens in the past, even though they don't seem that complicated, but must be some nuances to that course when it comes to the greens that the guys that know it just seem to do better. Now, with that said, that was kind of my first pick in, and I'm sure a lot, right? There was four of the most expensive guys in the 10,000 range from a Draftkings DFS perspective, whereas you had Tom Kim, Sungjae Im, Jordan Spieth, all missed the cut. Then you had Hideki, who came really close to missing the cut, but kind of pulled it out. Ended up, I believe 3 under to make the cut. 2 under was the cut. But also Sungjae Im, which is, I started to look more and more at his history, and it just doesn't make sense. I mean, 2019, he had his best showing there and gained pretty much across the board except with the irons. 2021 actually even gained probably better with the strokes and with the putter, but for whatever reason, he must have got outshot there because he only ended up 21st. But then since then, a 56, a miscut, and a miscut, and so I don't know. His game should be a perfect fit for that course. Typically, when he putts on Bermuda is where he typically putts the best that I've seen, but for whatever reason, it did not work out. So you had, again, as I mentioned. And then I already mentioned Jordan Spieth also missing the cut. And it was kind of weird if you saw the presser after his Thursday round open, I believe he shot 65, press interview, that he talked about that he was, in a different place, very confident that when he shoots 500-600 in the first round, that, he's not worried about the next round not being able to do the same. And then it kind of looked like same old Jordan from 2019, 2020, where, he put a couple in the water off the tee, and the putter again went back to not working. And all said and done, I mean, I'm not going to put too much stock into this, but again, I looked at his kind of Sony past history. He's got 2 missed cuts in a row. Again, if you want to see, if you combine the 2 rounds together, of course, the only where he actually gained was the putter, nothing else across the board against the field. But, he had a pretty good showing. Of course, 2017 was still a pretty strong year for him. His slack kind of fallen back to the wayside even in 2018. And then a miscut, one of the first, that'd have been like his rookie season. But yeah, I wouldn't freak out too much with Jordan. I'll be curious if he goes back to laying it off, like that pre-warm-up set. So in his swing, he would kind of take those pre-swings and he would, up top, he was kind of like he was forcing it to make sure he didn't hook it, is how I always saw it, the way he would make sure he had the angle where he was almost coming across the ball for a cut or a fade. Anyways, it was just really interesting. I think a lot of people after Thursday, at least all the Golf Channel, announcer slappies were, already calling it Jordan's tournament to win, and just kind of amazing that he also missed a cut. All right, Siwoo Kim, I'm going to bring up what I talked about him in the preview show because I didn't even listen to my own advice, but I just thought it was kind of funny that I stated all this, and then I did not pick him. I did not bet him. and I sometimes don't listen to myself. I think Siwoo Kim, it's just been a while, right? So, well, the Houston Open, so it hasn't been, I guess, not as even long as Cam Davis. But what you get with Siwoo Kim, man, if it all works, he could win any tournament he plays. I mean, he's that good of a player. He's even got a sneaky good short game. When I mean that is his, around the green chipping. It's all about the putter with Siwoo. Not too far off from like a Luke List. Pretty elite tee to green, even around the green. I think, more elite than a Luke List there. I would put him like with a Hideki Matsuyama. He's a very similar game set. So I would argue that if you want to play Hideki, you can get a cheaper Hideki version for Siwoo Kim, and that's my own personal feelings. But you can see it's the putter. Pretty amazing that you could lose 12 strokes with the putter and still make the cut. Let's see where he's. So, of course, we always think of him, right? A Pete Dye specialist, right? He won the Amex, Pete Dye, the Players. I don't know about the Wyndham, but he's always done well at the Wyndham. RBC Heritage, Pete Dye. So, whenever we make those Pete Dye swings, we always bring up Siwoo Kim. Everybody does. He just seems to have done very well on those. But again, I think this course fits him. I have no issue of playing him. And if ownership is low, I'll make some change ups. Probably put him in instead of like a Cam Davis or even maybe a Corey Connors, just to switch it up.
Hey, Golf Guru, it's Siwoo Kim here, and you're better be picking me to wins this weekend.
Yeah. So with that said, I mean, I've told you guys, even in there, Siwoo Kim is someone that technically you should bet every tournament. If you are a bettor, he just has that ability to show no form and then just come out and win. And he's done it over and over. And typically, what also I notice is he doesn't maybe do as well if he had the lead on Sunday. But when he's hunting, it's like he doesn't have to worry as much because he's just worried about making birdies. He kind of even stated that in his little after win press release, which I thought, or press junket, whatever you want to call. But amazing, funny enough, I kind of tweeted this out that I was waiting just because I feel like, I think the Houston Open, we saw him, he had I think a decent, but his last 4 tournaments were nothing to write home about. I think his best finish in 2022 was an 8th, if I recall off the top of my head. And he's never finished in his career better than 111th in putting. And so I stated not too far off from like a Luke List, he's become an elite ball striker. And if the putter goes, if he flips that putter, watch out. And of course, that is what happened, which we can see here. He gained a stroke, but just went nuts with the irons. There's my buddy Hayden Buckley, who did everything really well. I guess around the green, just lost a smidgen. Chris Kirk, I had 2 guys that I thought would win that tournament just because you had so many, kind of rookies and never been there. I thought it'd be Chris Kirk or Siwoo Kim that would kind of come out. And I'm not sure, was it Chris Kirk, I think, that went double bogey off the first hole, or was that Saturday? I forgot where he put it out of bounds on number 1. Andrew Putnam, who we just got to keep an eye on. I think he's even live for this tournament coming up. He's been playing good golf, but he did it mostly with the putter. Yeah, David Lipsky, again, waiting to break through with that first win. Had a lot of success, of course, on the Corn and then on the European Tour. Ben Taylor, who was a guy that we had, 200-1 odds on that I told you I was betting. I watched quite a whatever they showed of him on Sunday. He just could not make a putt. Even though his putter was hot during the rest of the tournament, every time they would go to him, if it was a 10-footer or anything, he just was not making them. Matt McNeely just, staying true like Taylor Montgomery, doing a lot with the putter. You had my buddy Nate Lashley, funny, and Doc Redman, which, kind of was up there in the leaderboard. I don't know where he actually ended up, but at one time on like Friday, Saturday, those guys, of course, who were the, winners, first and second at the Rocket Mortgage. I talked quite a bit about that. Typically, Nate Lashley also does pretty well in this kind of event coming up. I'm not sure if he's at the Amex, but at Pebble Beach, he's shown up. Aaron Badley, also, someone to keep an eye on in that low 6,000 range from a DFS play. He's been playing better golf, always been a good putter. Kuchar was probably the most shocking to me on what he did. I mean, it looked like he was going to miss the cut. I felt like he was 3 over after his first, 12 holes on Thursday. And then out of nowhere, he tracked his way up. Then he had Nick Taylor, who I'll talk a bit from a betting side and why I'm interested in him. Also came out and, kind of torched it. I think he shot like 8 under Saturday or Sunday. He had a really good one round, made a good Sunday round too. But anyways, that's my recap of the Sony Open. So we are done with the Hawaii swing, and now we are headed to the West Coast, back to the lower 48, and we will start out the California swing. I believe after this is the Farmers. But anyways, they're going to La Quinta, California, right there by Coachella, or just a little north, would be a northeast of San Diego. And what is unique about this event is a lot like Pebble Beach AT&T Pro-Am. It is back to a full three-course rotation. So for a while there, I think even last year, they still didn't have the Pro-Am guys involved, if I remember correct, due to maybe still lingering COVID things. But they are going to be playing the full three-course with the amateurs. So the Ray Romanos. Anyways, we're going to have those guys in the field, and it is a tough watch. It's a long 6 hours because you've got two PGA pros with two amateurs, and they have a very large field that they spread over these three tournaments, 156 players to be exact. So I'm kind of bummed at that. But on the positive side, we have a lot stronger field that I ever remember at the American Express. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think we have the top 5 out of 10 and the top 10 out of 20. Like Xander Schauffele's in the field, but I don't know if he's going to play due to the back. You've got like the Schefflers and Rahms and Cantlays, a lot of big names who I'm pretty shocked that are going to be playing here. And then, of course, Pete Dye, Jack Nicklaus has done some of the designs, and I believe La Quinta, I forgot the guy who designed that, but it doesn't really matter. This used to be, I think, the Bob Hope Classic way back 1983, so it's been there quite a while. A lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about is going to be focused on what is known as PGA West or the Stadium course. That's where they will play at least one round, either Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then that's where it will finish when it's a 54-hole cut. So everybody plays one of the courses each day, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Then they make the cut, and the amateurs go away, and then we actually have good golf. So if you want my advice, if you're, don't watch every day like I do, just tune in for Sunday, and you'll be so much happier than trying to watch what's going to be going on the first 3 days. Your fairway and rough is this Tiff Green Bermuda, and what I've got, really the rough is no concern. It is that what they call dormant rough, dormant Bermuda. So almost like a desert look to it, where the greens are green and the fairways are green, and then everything else is browned out. And the rough causes no issues whatsoever. Not like what we just saw, where the 3-inch Bermuda, wasn't ridiculous, but it could throw some guys off. If anything, just the ability to check the ball and hold it on the green. And then we got these Tiff Dwarf Bermuda overseeded with POA. I still play it as Bermuda greens. When you see POA, I mean, it is in California, and typically California, you always have POA, but that's a little more for sure on the northern regions of California where they can get away with Bermuda. But of course, when the wintertime comes, I believe they overseed with POA just to make sure that there's no issues if they do get below temperatures for some reason. I already stated player field is 156, 54-hole cut. So when it gets down to Sunday, it'll be T65 and ties as typical. Historical cut line is pretty low. This is a birdie fest. It is a putting contest. But 6 under is about where it typically falls in. And some of your past champions, last year, out of nowhere, 200-1 was Hudson Swafford, who has won this tournament twice. We'll talk a little bit about that. He shot 23 under, and right behind him, I believe, was Tom Hoagie, who there's some correlations I'm going to talk about when I get to comp courses. Before that, you have Siwoo Kim, of course. That's where, the Pete Dye Master, where he's done a good at Harbour Town. He's won at TPC Sawgrass. But now he's got the Sony Open, which is not a Pete Dye course. You got Andrew Landry, where, again, another, crazy long shot. And there has been, this was one of what I used to like about the American Express is you had a good shot at hitting the long shot. And you guys know me. I love betting golf for the long shots, but now that we have a really spruced up field, it's going to be a lot tougher, but I'm still going to be looking for him. And I'll tell you that, the guy that I think, from a low odds perspective and all that, who I'm looking at. Adam Long, again, one of his first victories, it was his first victory on tour. And that was 2018, something like that. And then you got John Rahm, funny enough, won here. And I believe that was his first victory also on the PGA Tour. Average green sides are pretty average. 5,000 square feet on the PGA Tour is what I consider average. But depending on which courses, you're playing out of 3, there's somewhere between 5,000 to 7,000 square feet. The one tricky thing here, and I'll talk a little bit when we get to the defense, but a lot of sand bunkers, 90 plus, and this course, the one major defense that it has is this bunkering is very difficult, rated on the PGA, is either number 1, number 2 of getting out and getting up and down. You've got at least, again, specifically talking about the stadium course, you got 7 holes of water that come into play. And I believe over the 3 courses, I think I have this in there somewhere, that 40% of the holes are played with water around it. I got from last year's Stimpmeter running around 11. So I'd guess that's pretty true. And then I mentioned water. Also, the par threes are some of the toughest holes on this course, and we'll talk a little more about that. I mentioned the bunker difficulty. So again, short game. I mentioned, there's some uniqueness where I believe the Pebble Beach experience, guys that can handle long rounds and playing with amateurs. I think there is something to that because, it is different. It is really slow golf, as I mentioned. And, a lot of the amateurs will pick up if they, feel like they're kind of holding up things. All right. It seems like players with good course history have done well here and know the greens. The key thing I would note out of all this is that if you are playing Showdown, if you want a rating of which is the easiest courses down to the hardest out of these three, number one is La Quinta, where they score the best. The next would be the Nicholas, and then the Stadium, which is the Pete Dye course that we're talking quite a bit here. That is pretty significant, and people that have been doing this a while and playing Showdown for a while know this. But for some people that maybe are new to this, if you're just playing the whole, picking guys for the large GPP for the 4 days, no concern. Everyone's got to play all these courses. But each day, if you are playing Showdown, you definitely want to pick guys either on La Quinta and Nicholas. Now, don't get me wrong. There's going to be a couple, people that are going to come out the stadium and shoot well too. But overwhelmingly, there is a difference in who, the scoring, even to the point where I believe you can't pick first round winners. It'll only be for the guys playing on the stadium course. They might not even do it, period, but we'll see. Ball strikers, yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's as much as a concern here. What I've always remember is it's approach and putting. We'll go into that. And one time I had this in here. This is where you bet the long shots and really minimize DFX exposure because we don't have the stroke game data from the other courses. We just have it for the stadium course, but there's a lot of crossover from some other events courses. And so I'm not too concerned about that. I mean, I think we can make pretty good picks on who should do well here, of course, from a DFS perspective too. All right, if you want just a quick view, this is the stadium course here, PGA West, also known as that island green that you're seeing here, which is kind of funny. It's also number 17, a lot like TPC Sawgrass for the players. And they have that there. I mentioned quite a bit of water. You also got like a peninsula here on, I believe that's number 6. You see where water. We're actually going to talk about this 5th hole. There's something pretty quirky about this hole that we'll talk about here very shortly. You see 13 is along the water, 9. So it's kind of funny. I remember even, 18. You see a lot of the holes, you can get in water trouble. So I used to always kind of comp out the Honda, the 3M Open, or some of the more, courses with a lot of water. But really, I don't think that's the greatest. Even PGA National. I've got kind of a new spin on what I'm looking at from a comparable course side, and we'll see how that works out. And then just to give you some views, we talked quite a bit about this dormant fairways. What you're also going to know is some, this undulation. You got the mountains here, but you can literally, the guys will know that, hey, I can hit it up into here. It's going to come back down. So I don't have to worry about, the sand here because I'm going to put my ball off this hill, let it work back down. So knowing some of the angles, of course, they're going to be out there practicing or they played it. This is the issues that I was talking about with the bunkering. So if you do get in here and it happens, I believe even at the Waste Management at TPC Scottsdale, they got a little bit, we're getting up onto the green and holding it, especially the pins over here. It is very difficult. And I think you get an understanding. I mean, that's probably, I don't know, looks like 10, 12 feet of rise, if not more. And there's that, again, the par 3 on 17 that you're looking at there. Now, this is at on the stadium, the number 5th hole. It's a par 5. And what probably one of the most hated holes by the PGA players. And the reason why is that this cart path, which still runs right through here, is about exactly 300 yards. And so it's happened quite a bit in the past, not quite a bit, but it does happen in the past that you hit a great drive right down the middle. It bounces or hits us on the fly and then flies into this water, which this is about 400 yards right here. And the only way typically is, like I said, you got to hit it on the first bounce or the next, unless you're just crazy long. But again, you could be dead center, hit this car path and end up in it. It's just one of those tilting things where you're like, I couldn't hit a ball any better. Just why are you running? I mean, it's kind of, something that you typically would see on courses that we get to play, that you have literally a hard cart path right in the middle of the fairway at a spot that typically guys are going to be driving it. So anyways, kind of quirky on this par 5, but also a very, if you don't have that happen, it's a very eagleable hole. And that's a big thing on here too. The par fives, I believe there's 4 of them. We'll go with the scorecard. I think on all of them, that's, you got to make hay on those as typical. Speaking of that, let's go take a look. So if we look at the scorecard, it is a pretty gentle handshake. So the last 2 tournaments we've watched, the first couple holes were actually some of the toughest holes on the course. And then, of course, it got pretty easier as you went on. Here it's a little more easier start. Also, I like, if a guy's playing on the stadium and I'm playing Showdown, I might take a stab. Well, it actually isn't going to matter. Yeah, no, it ain't going to matter. I was thinking of this a different way. Where I see a birdie consecutive streak would be somewhere between 8 and 12. And so it doesn't matter. If guys go out the first, I guess technically if they go off the back, you took away that number 8 easiest hole on the thing. So maybe that's what I was thinking. Yeah, so maybe you want to, maybe I'd play more guys, trying to thinking if they went 1 through 18, they have a better shot. But I don't know, because they have 3 course rotation, I don't think they'll be shooting them off split tees. I don't remember that off the top of my head. Doesn't really matter. But anyways, as usual, I mentioned about the par threes are some of the hardest holes. So you can see here, the hardest hole here is this number 13th over, the life of this. And then you've got this other par 3, 223. And then I believe it is the 5th hardest hole is this par 3, 165. So that is the one major defense is the par 3s. Also talked about the crazy bunkering. And as usual, you have like 6 birdie ops, 6 bogey ops. And the easiest hole to eagle is number 8. I thought number 5 would be, but it's actually number 8 is showing up, and also 16. And is there 4 par 4s? I believe that is correct. Yeah. And I believe I didn't put the scorecards in for all of I did usually do, but I'm like, you know what? It's kind of a waste. The major one we got to worry about is the stadium course. They're playing it twice, toughest course. And the only thing I'll call out is that I noticed this hole here, actually, they put 40 more yards. So that number 16 is typically 560. So I don't know, they must have put a new tee in the back to lengthen that. But we got an extra 40 yards, so maybe that changes it. Did not be, that high of an eagle hole, but I just wanted to call that out. It is what it is. And again, par 72 and all the courses, I believe this is the longest, almost 7,200 yards. All the rest kind of get a little less, but they're very similar. Par 72s and all around 7,000 to 7,100 yards. Just note to self. All right, so for my custom stat model, or typically what is it we're looking for guys to do very well here to typically, and if they've done this, they've won. Approach is always usually either it's 1 or 1A. It's it could be putting, it could be off tee, but here it's all about approach. Actually, putting should be second, I believe. Off the tee, really it doesn't show up that driving distance and fairways, like I said, because the rough is not penal here. But I do want to see guys that still, especially with this field, there's going to be guys that hit it long and straight, and so I do believe that is advantage. But that around the green, sand, short game, that is something else I'm focusing on. And then the proximity to the pins, the number one that it shows up the most is 150 to 175. It's around 25% of the time, and then the next is 75 to 100 at 11%. If you take the 3 courses combined, there's actually 40% or over of the holes are par 4s, 350 to 400. So I'm plugging that in. And then these par 5s typically fall in between 5 to 550. So I'll throw that to take a look at that. And then the par 3s, specifically talking about the stadium course, I want to look at, because again, that's the course that they're going to finish on. And, that, could be a big change on who does well. But I mentioned already 3 of the toughest holes on that course. And then birdies and eagles, as always, it is a birdie fest. It is a putting fest. All right. So we also want to kind of confirm that. We can look at what the past winners have done here. Of course, what's showing here, this is from previous, but you got Siwoo Kim, Andrew Landry. And as I mentioned, putting and approach. You can see when Siwoo won it. Of course, as I mentioned, I was kind of waiting to bet and go all in on Siwoo for this event. I'm not going to lie. I don't know. I don't know if I'll put a bet on him or not. To go back to back is so rare. And also it's Siwoo Kim, who typically does not do that. Typically, we haven't seen a lot of Siwoo where he top 10s and top 10s. Like, that's very, very rare. So I've done nothing with him at this perspective, but I'm just letting you know that was the plan, was I was holding that. I wanted to see one round from him. I think he played in the Houston Open, had not a bad outing there, but yeah, I a little shocked that he went out and did what he did, but hey, it happens. And as I mentioned before, it could happen at any time. And then you'll see Andrew Lander is only one on tour. Again, the putter and approach, and you can kind of see that's par for the course kind of here. You can see Tony Finau, just ball strike the crap out of it, and still I'd say neutral to the field with the putter. And I believe he is in this field, so something to think about too. This is if you want a longer look. So Adam Long, I'm actually interested in. I'll talk to why I'm interested in. And whenever I see Adam Long, there's certain courses that I'm always keeping an eye on him to win. But you can see a lot of long shots. When where is he at? Brian Gay won. He was a long shot. Duffner, Hudson Swafford both times. That I think I said he was 200 to 1 last year. That came out of nowhere. I didn't see that. But then when I started to look, there is some correlation I'll talk about when we get to the comp course. I'll kind of save that because I think it's kind of a unique kind of view at what I'm doing. And then we want to look at specifically the stroke gain information that we got from last year. Of course, again, Hudson Swafford. I wanted to do a little more analysis on Hudson, but because he's now on the Live Tour, he's not, there's some stuff there, but it's not as easy to find his information because he's totally off the PGA Tour, which is kind of removed off of Fantasy National. Like I said, there is information like this that you can pull, but you can't just go to Hudson Swafford and do the analysis. But again, crazy irons and went nuts with the putter. You can see Tom Hoagie, who I'm also very interested in. There's definitely the correlation again that I'll talk about with another course. So I got this 3-course correlation that seems like it just shows up over and over again, and we'll talk about Lato Griffin. Kind of funny. I was thinking about him last week. He had an injury, and I can't remember now if it was the back or what, but I haven't heard nothing from him. I have no idea if he plans on coming back and when. Lee Hodges, Brian Harmon, Francisco Molinari, Will Z. You can see the guys. I think Denny McCarthy. You can see Siwoo Kim showed up again. There's our buddy Sanjay M, who decided to miss the cut for us last week. But all in all, it's a bit of the irons. You see only one guy lost a little bit, Cantlay. But typically you're gaining with the irons and you're typically going to gain with the putter. All right. So with that said, of course, as always, I created a custom stat model that I'm going to share with you guys. And the first thing that I always look at is recent form. And one of you guys mentioned actually that, and I didn't go back and look at this, but you just stated on Twitter that my recent form model, the top 15 guys actually looked pretty similar to the field going into Sunday. And I haven't even looked at it. I know I, of course, had quite a few guys on there, but I'm going to have to go back and just see what I missed there. I should have just played, I guess, my recent form list. But anyways, this is recent form looking at the last 3 tournaments or 12 rounds. Most of these guys we've seen pretty recent, except maybe Neesmith I haven't seen in a while. We just saw Tyson Alexander, Finau we've seen. Patrick Rogers, it might have been Will Gordon. He killed me on Showdown Finale. That's a different story. Cage Lee. Jason Day has been a little bit. I feel like I'm sure he played in the fall swing, but it's been at least a few tournaments I've seen him. All the rest of these guys have been playing. We got to see him pretty recent. But with all that said, I remember what I went with is approach heavy 25%, putting 15%, proximity to pin 150 to 175 at 10. Sorry, this is a little mixed up compared to how I usually do, but the par 3s I talked about, I weighed at 5, birdies at 10%, those par 5s at 10, off the tee at 10, the sand saves and around the green at 15. That's kind of the model I went with. And I liked what it pulled up. So I think it's a better representation when I pull up the past 24 rounds, the guys that I think I'm like, okay, this looks even a little better. I think the guy that I'm betting from a favorite standpoint will be Patrick Cantlay. We'll talk a little more about. And just so you know, this is FanDuel. I don't know why, but Fantasy National did not have Draftkings in yet. So you're going to get quite a bit better numbers that I noticed on DraftKings. Patrick Cantlay right now is 11 to 1. And what we're looking at here is the past 24 rounds or 6 tournaments. So that's, spreading out a little further again against that same model. I mentioned Xander. I have no clue if he's going to play or not. I would doubt it, but we have no idea yet. On that note, I wonder if anybody saw this. Chad Ramey came up. If you played Showdown Finale on Sunday and you were putting your teams together Saturday night, he literally showed out. And I think he even stated in the notes that he withdrew from the tournament. And so I didn't play him and I wasn't worried about it, but I think he had a pretty decent Sunday. And I wonder, that was crazy that all of a sudden I was like, no, he's playing. So I don't know. I don't know if anybody else know that, but it was kind of interesting. There's our buddy Sanjay M. You got Tony Finau, Cam Davis, who kind of let me down a little bit at the Sony. I won't, kind of had up and down rounds, but the putter actually ball strike. I think he led a ball striking at one time, just was not making putters. There's Tom Kim, who we know just died with the putter. Justin Lauer, I believe it's been a little bit since I've seen him. You got Tom Hoagie, Putnam, Neesmith, Todd, Wilsey, Jason Day, Griffin, and Brian Harmon. Again, this is looking at my model up here against the last 6 tournaments they played, which is all should be pretty recent form for most of these guys. Like I said, maybe Neesmith. I don't. He definitely did play in a Hawaii swing, but I'm sure he played in the fall. All right. So always the next thing that we want to look at is history at specifically. This is just the stadium course. This is not taking La Quinta or the Nicholas. And this is looking at, I believe, the last 12 rounds they played on that course. And no shocker, Siwoo Kim comes up number 1. He's done very well here, even from, I said, of course, a win, but even top 10s other than that. You got Cam Davis, Hoagie, Adam Hadwin, we'll talk a little more about. Tony Finau, M. Harmon, the Duffner, who's won here in the past, which, kind of funny. That fits a very, in my mind, a really good ball striker, but horrific putter. Not too far off from a Sungjae Im at times. Patrick Cantlay, Rahm, Scott Piercy, Benny Martin, Sammy Burns, James Hahn is showing up as a withdrawal already, and then Scotty Scheffler. And then here's the view that I do for you guys that is looks at this tournament for the last 5 years and looking at just total strokes gained and finishings. But I think total strokes gained overall, so that would take in off the tee, irons, putting, around the green, all that stuff. And, shows who's number 1, Adam Hadwin, funny enough. And it makes sense. This course should fit him. Of course, he had a really nice run in 2019-18. Did not play in 2020. And then a 25th and a 32nd. Then if you want to look at more recent, who's done most recent the best, and actually you could kind of look at Patrick Cantlay. The 3 times he's played here, top 10 or better every time. Sungjae Im's had a great outing, so it'd be kind of interesting if anybody is a little nervous to play him. I would have no hiccup of going back to him. Like I said, when I showed you guys, he didn't do anything well. There was nothing you could point to and say, oh, his driver was wayward or his irons blew, or he was just kind of not good across the board, and the putter did not do anything. Andrew Putnam, I'm interested in. We'll talk about him from a betting perspective. I think it fits him well. He's been playing really good golf. You got Jon Rahm whenever he's in a tournament. Of course, we all know that he's going to be the number 1 favorite to odds, which shows 550 to 1, 6 to 1, whatever it is. Siwoo Kim, again, this was where if I was doing one and done this year and was going to go all in on it, would have been this. But now I'm not going to lie, I'll still play him in DFS. I don't think I'm going to bet him. You got Andrew Landy, past champion. Brian Harmon, this course would fit perfect. Finau, he's been super red hot. Five wins, 3 wins out of the last, I don't even know, 6 tournaments, something like that. Cam Davis, Hoagie, Knox, Scheffler, Ryder, John, and Nick Taylor. We'll talk a little more about. Okay, and typically whenever we play a Pete Dye course, because they have this filter on Fantasy National, I pull it up. I'm not saying that this, that this is the end all be all by any stretch, but if you want to know the Pete Dye courses, which would be Harbortown, TPC Sawgrass, where they play the Players, the Amex. There's other ones, a couple other ones. I'm thinking maybe it's TPC River Highlands, where they play the Travelers. That is the Pete Dye courses. And if you want to know who's done the best over the last 6 tournaments they played on a Pete Dye course, and it, it kind of does show that some of these guys, it does make sense. Of course, I already mentioned Siwoo Kim. We always think of as a Pete Dye specialist. Patrick Cantlay kind of fits right in there too. Sungjae Im, you got Stuart Sink, who out of nowhere had a really nice tournament last week at Sony. Just started putting better. I mean, I think he went, so like a Siwoo Kim, I didn't bring this up, like Aaron Wise, those guys that have went, Adam Scott, that went to that longer putter. Now, of course, they can't anchor it, even though it looks really hard to tell if they are anchoring it to their chest or not. It's really helped a lot of those bad putters. Siwoo Kim, hence, is definitely one of those guys. And I think I saw Stuart Sink went to the same thing. You got JR, Justin Rose, Burns, Scheffler, EVR, who's always lethal, can be, I think he's a cool showdown play. Like that guy can go in fuego. I've seen him where his irons hitting everything within 2 feet. He's also a pretty bad putter. You got Brian Harmon, Cam Davis, Charlie Hoffman. Did not know he was in the field. The Hofster, Patty Kazar, my broke back, let me down again. And I mean, he made the cut, but just didn't do anything. I think he had an okay Sunday. I think he shot 2 or 3 under, but not a good Friday or Saturday. Doug Gim, which is funny. I always mix Doug Gim with Lipsky. And Doug Gim is the guy that you always want to play at TPC Sawgrass. Whatever it is at the Players, no matter what form he's in, that guy just loves that course somehow. Wilsey and Adam Hadwin to round it off. And then if you're looking, again, I always show this, who's, the best putter. Again, I don't know how much I would weigh on this, but it is a putting contest. It is Bermuda. Yes, I mentioned overseeded POA, but I don't think that's really going to affect anything. Funny enough, my buddy Ben Taylor, that we had at 200 to 1 odds, that, we're hoping that was going to come to fruition. Would have been great if I'd have bet him top 5, but that did not happen. You got Brian Gay, of course, who wins at Bermuda and loves putting on Bermuda, but that's about what he does. You got Harry Hall, the European, who had good showing at the Sony. I also, am using, I think there is some correlation there. Bo Hosler, where that guy, there is some interest there because he also had a good showing at Pebble Beach, and we'll talk about that. Putnam Burns, Aaron Wise, Taylor Montgomery, your driving and putting specialist. Brendan Todd, pretty good tournament. Good Sunday. I think he had a kind of a not so hot Saturday. I think he had a quad. I think off the first tee, he drove it out of bounds and up with an 8. And I think that kind of killed him in the tournament. Tony Finau, you got Thomas Detry showing up badly, JR, Tom Hoagie, and Adam Long. So seeing quite a few names kind of showing up over and over and over. And if you do, that's typically guys that should do really well here. And then I think the last one I did was best on approach because, again, it's all about the irons here and the putter. And no shocker, Tom Hoagie, which also typically does very well at this 150 to 175. You got Tom Kim, which curious, again, if these guys will go back. I mean, again, I have no problem. Everybody has a bad outing. I think I mentioned that Tom Kim, before that miscut, didn't have a miscut in 12 events. And then he had a miscut, I believe, funny enough, it was at the American Express and the PGA tournament. He's only had, in his whole career on the PGA Tour, I think he had an invite to play in the PGA, was his first miscut, and then the PGA Championship again, and then the Amex, funny enough. So there you go. Siwoo Kim, Knox, Shoffley, Day, Mark Hubbard, who missed a cut for me. He was one of my cheapie picks. There's Dave Lipsky, Colin Turn, Ben Griffin, Hadwin, Ben Griffin was a pick of mine last week. He had a good tournament, did well. Will Z, Brendan Steele, and Neesmith to round out your top 15 best on approach over the past 6 tournaments or 24 rounds. Okay, so let's talk about golf courses. So first I'm going to give you the, where I think I'm going to be going and leaning, because I've started to do a little more digging into trying to look at name correlation. So where have these guys done well? And Pebble Beach and American Express, of course, Tom Hoagie has done well at both. Patrick Cantlay has done really well at both of these. So there's correlation there. I think RSM, because you got a 2-course, 3. Let me think about that. Is it a 3-course rotation? They got Plantation and Seaside. I think it's just a 2-course rotation for RSM. So you got some, and they got the water. There's some, I think, crossover, Bermuda. The Sony Open, funny enough, when I started doing, now again, it could be the fields, because coming off the Hawaii swing, typically you go right into the Amex. But there has been some correlation. Like if you look at Hudson Swafford, who won the Amex twice, has also done one at the Sony. And you can look at that for quite a few of these guys. Of course, now Siwoo Kim won the Sony, has done very well at the American Express, won that. You got the Pete Dye angle here with the RBC Heritage at Harbortown. The Players, again, I told you there's some similarities with the water, the Island Green on 17. It's a Pete Dye course. And then a lot of the TPC courses, that's why I just put this one here, but TPC Scottsdale, where they play Waste Management, TPC Summerlin, where they play Shriners, TPC River Highlands, which again is a Pete Dye, where they play the Travelers, and there was one more TPC. Anyways, with that said, that is the courses that I put in here and then ran it, and over the last 24 rounds or 6 tournaments that these guys have played there. And right off the bat, Patrick Cantlay comes up, which is, I think, a great identifier, because when you look at his career at Pebble Beach and also at the Amex, it's elite. Siwoo Kim also. JT Poston pops up. Adam Hadwin. SH Kim, but be careful of that. That's only 9 rounds. Xander Hoagie, who's he came up runner-up last year at the Amex and then won at Pebble Beach. Neesmith, for whatever reason, it just keeps, if you've been paying attention, just keeps showing up over and over and over, and I've done nothing with him. I need to go do a little more investigation before I bet him, but he just keeps showing up over and over. EVR, Cam Davis, Ryder, Burns, Rom, Harmon again shows up 1,000. Putnam's been showing up a ton. Cam Davis, and then EVR even a bit. So that gives you some ideas. And then the other one that I didn't put in here because we don't get stroke gate data is Corrales Putakana. And again, I'm trying to figure out, is that just because the fields were similar from the Amex, but you had Hudson Swafford, who won the Amex twice, also won at Corrales. There was another one, Adam Long, who shows up quite a bit at the Amex. Of course, he won the Amex, also top 5 at Corrales. I think Joel Damon won Corrales, has also done well, I believe, at Pebble Beach. He had a top 5 now. Joel Damon, for whatever reason, has not done well at the American Express, but there has done well at Pebble Beach, and of course won Corrales in 2021. Anyways, I started to see a lot of correlation of guys that done well at Corrales, even though that is a longer course, but there is more undulation. And it's also past Palm, which is close. It's, it is Oceanside, which this is not Oceanside. So I don't think the courses exactly, but funny enough, the names keep showing up between Corrales, Pebble Beach, and American Express. So I'm going a little bit on that narrative. I'll just let you in on that for me. All right. So with all that said, the betting card I have right now that I put together Monday morning, you can actually get 11-1 on DraftKings, and I believe that's still holding true. So Patrick Cantlay from All Out odds perspective. Now, funny enough, I was not impressed with Patrick Cantlay's game at the Tournament of Champions. I don't really know if that's a great fit for him. I see this like Pebble Beach and here in Harbor Town. Like, I don't know, not saying that he can't get, of course, win anywhere. Of course, he's won BMW a couple times. So yeah, I don't know, but I like him on bent greens. These are not bent greens, but man, he's done really well here, and he's done well at Pebble Beach. So I guess also playing with the amateurs, he's okay with that. So anyways, Tom Hoagie, talked already in length about that, and I've been playing pretty good golf. Adam Hadwin shows up on both sides, as I just mentioned. I don't know about Corrales, but definitely Pebble Beach, and he's just killed it here at the American Express. Putnam just playing great golf, is also done pretty well here and Pebble Beach. This should fit him perfect. You don't need to gain off the tee. You just need to be really good with irons, short game, and putter. Joel Damon, I mentioned, he does not have a good record here, but I mentioned the Corrales / Pebble Beach backing. Denny McCarthy, again, like I think Andrew Putnam and him now, really kind of shocked, I'm not going to lie, that we're getting this kind of odds on Denny McCarthy. So I don't remember if that's what I got on. I think I got 90-1, not 95-1. I think I got 90-1 on DraftKings Sportsbook. But if you get that 100-1, 90, like I think this is we've been waiting for Danny McCarthy to win. A member also, I think a good comp, which they don't play a lot, but they played it last year with that TPC Potomac. I do that every time. TPC Potomac, where they played what was that? The Wells Fargo? Yeah, right? Yeah, because that's typically at Quell. Anyways, that's a pretty good comp course, but they only play it once. But he had a really good showing there. I think he's even from that area, if I remember right. And Luke List, this is purely, I got him 200-1. And I just thought, West Coast, the little bit of Poa in there. The guy is just elite ball striking. And to be honest, I think a lot of it was I miss Siwoo Kim. And I would just shoot myself. Of course, the Farmers is coming where he won. He's in California. He won the Farmers. I mean, there is a lot of really loose correlation to this one. But 200-1, give me Luke List, and I missed Siwoo Kim, whatever it was last week, 55-1, 50-1. So I think I just threw a few bucks on him. Alex Smalley, even though he missed a cut, which, again, his game should have fit very well there. He's also done well. I think it was Pebble Beach. He had a top 5. And, of course, the Wyndham, he's done well. This should fit him well. And I think you get better odds than even that. Nick Taylor, of course, went in Fuego, I believe it was Saturday, shot 9 under or something like that. And he won Pebble Beach, beating Phil Mickelson. And I think he's also showed up here. So this, from a Nick Taylor, and again, I think you get a 200-1 number here, better than that on DraftKings. And then Adam Long, again, he's a past winner here. Again, there's some Corrales ties. I think he's even done well at Pebble Beach, if I remember correct. So there was enough correlation of stuff here. So this was my first pass. I don't know, back-to-back winner, Siwoo Kim, like that could happen. And, maybe I'm making a mistake. It's funny. I looked at my last year's information and I had Siwoo Kim all over this, my deck here showing you guys. And it was just kind of funny that I was all over him last year and would have been all over him again. Now, I don't think I'll bet him, but I will probably play him in DFS. We'll see. All right. With that said, that's it. That's my show and betting show for the American Express. Again, I kind of mentioned, hey, the downsides of this is, we're going to have the amateurs playing, so we're going to have long rounds, but we have a way better field. But on the negative side is that kind of hurts a little bit of the long shot odds. But one bet, put Patrick Cantlay 11-1, call it a day. If you're like me and you like to sprinkle smaller bets on larger odds, with also taking, a couple horses up top, then you've got the guys that I'm interested in right now. All right, guys, that's it. And I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. I will have my DFS pick show out for you. And talk to you then. Take care.